This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we're going to talk about the potential for a ban list before the BT11 meta drops. And just in general, since we did just get confirmed that BT11 will be the set that will be played at Nationals this year, there's then discussion after that of, do any cards need to be affected? Do any cards need to be limited, banned, or anything like that? And so that's the point of this video, of just my thoughts and my predictions on this, and not anything that is like a by and large. And honestly, I'm not doing any hard callouts for anything being banned right now, but I do want to just kind of go over cards that I think are maybe overtuned, decks that are very popular right now and maybe will be continue to be popular in BT11, and just kind of go from there. But in general, like a lot of the, I'd say like current problems in the meta, if you want to say that there's problems, are just the release of BT9. BT9 was a really, really strong set that, 2 sets later, we're still just seeing it dominate in most of the meta here. So obviously MetalGaruru X is one of the biggest contenders for that. Grandis has been very, very strong as of late. And then, Death Xmon is probably like the poster child of just like what people don't like playing against right now. It's a very, very easy to play card in almost any deck, and it's very, very strong for what it does. So I do also want to just kind of talk about quickly these guys too. So obviously Alphamon, also BT9, it got hit by the ban list, and it's still obviously it got a top 2 in a recent event too for BT10 EX3 meta. So I still think it's a strong deck, but not where it was. But it's another deck from BT9 that had to be brought down to kind of some other levels just for to adjust the meta. Blackcore Greymon, which Blackcore Greymon I think has been very strong since release. I don't think it's on the same level as the other 3 decks as of Alphamon, MetalGaruru X, and Grandis. I think those 3 are just consistently stronger than it, but we are getting a lot of big support for it in BT11 as well, and so it can be on the chopping block for future stuff. I know it's very strong based on some initial testing, and I don't know. I think it's going to be very, very good, and we're seeing that it's not only getting support in BT11, but the next 2 sets afterwards it's getting some support as well. And then also Shoutmon, or Crossheart in general, it got like a really early ban into the life of BT10 for it, but we do have a whole pretty much new archetype around it that doesn't really get affected as much by the cross 4 being hit. So I think that's also a very popular deck that's going to be coming forward. We're just going to talk about it a little bit. I don't think it's like a big important thing for this video specifically, but I just kind of want to mention a little bit. So but first, no ban list. I think that's fine, honestly. Right now, going into my BT11 testing and what it is, and saying that BT11 will be tested for the first time at a large level, will be at Nationals, means that it's a very open format, and it's kind of hard to justify a lot of bans for this. Obviously, BT11 has been in Japan for, a couple months now. They have their own kind of meta, and we can kind of understand what it is, but the ban lists that we got are going to be a little bit different. So Alphamon and Crossheart aren't going to be as powerful as it was when BT11 was out in Japan. And I don't know. I'm just saying that I'm not actively calling for cards to be banned right now, and that a day 1 format in BT11 being Nationals I think is stressful, but I think it is also very interesting from meta wise and seeing what people choose, and it's going to be a lot of like decision points that people get to make and see what they think is best. So anyways, going into, I'd say, like generic cards, I think a lot of these people don't like, and like it's the crutch of what BT9, what it really brought was the X antibody, right? X antibody is such a flexible archetype for cards that get support with it. Cool Boy, it by and large, I think it should have been a 3 cost. It being a 2 cost is just absurdly powerful for what it is. Being able to draw 1, get a memory back, being able to search cards. Some decks get like half their deck they get to search for, and sometimes you get a double hit with the X antibody. I think this is just someone, that a lot of people were I don't know. A lot of people don't like this card. Either it being 3 costs or it being at 1, I think would be a fix for it if we do something with it, but I don't know. It just seems like it's definitely very overtuned for a lot of decks right now, and it's something that would be on my crosshairs right now. X antibody, this is just kind of to be put there with Cool Boy. I don't actually have too big of an issue with this card. I think it's powerful for what it is, but it's also can be kind of bricky, and it's strong in X antibody decks, but it's not. I don't think it's absurdly powerful. I think it's fine for what it is, but I just want to talk about it. But then also just Death Xmon. It's great. It's very strong. And one of the more kind of like weirder things when we talk about this card too is that if you look back on like the limit and ban list, by and large they are just, they're not expensive cards, right? They're just overtuned cards, and most of the decks that are very good, they're just overtuned with like a common, rare, or uncommon, right? This is a secret rare. Like this is actively like an expensive card in the game, with $150 with it, which is sometimes like this one copy of this card is more expensive than some decks at some point, because Digimon honestly is a pretty cheap game compared to a lot of other card games right now. So saying that how expensive Death X has been, can be, and will be is really alarming. And then also if it happens to get hit by a ban list or something, like that's going to hurt a lot of consumers, right? So honestly, like I've seen like Bandai for previous games, like Dragon Ball Super, be really hesitant to ban or affect a secret rare. They've done it, but normally they ban the cards around it. But unfortunately, like this guy, there's not really anything to ban around it. So I don't know. I would be okay with this card being limited to one. I don't know if banning is the way. And honestly, if they limit it any less than one, like most decks are just running it at 1 or 2 anyways. But it's very obnoxious. It's a very obnoxious card to play around sometimes, and some decks still don't really have good answers for it, and it's kind of stinky to have it plop down for cheap on your opponent's turn. But I don't really have a grid. I mean, limit one is just like a really easy way to address it, but I don't know. I don't really how I feel about it. It's just I know a lot of people don't like it, and I understand kind of why. Going to MetalGaruru, this video has kind of evolved from a video I was going to make, and then I got lazy over the holiday break of just how good is MetalGaruru X. And the short answer, I compiled all the data that I've done in the last 6 months or so since BT9 has been released, so a little bit less than that. There's essentially been 20 like Bandai official events, like 100 plus people. Most of them I think are 200 plus people anyways. BT9 came out, it was like under a quarter topping. Got 4 first place out of 13, so like it won like a third of the tournaments essentially. But then out of the BT10 Extreme meta, it's just gotten better. It's pretty much a third of the meta, of the top placing meta right now. It's got 2 first places out of 6 events, and it's the big thing to me for my contender is that of the 19 events that I looked at, it topped every event. There's at least one MetalGaruru X in every single one of these top 16s that I went over. So that was just something in my mind that was a flag to kind of look at, is this deck a little bit too good or overtuned? But anyways, and just in general, in these 20 events, this is, again, it's topped every event. It's gotten 80 tops, so of top 16, 80 spots of those for the 304 events, so 16 times 19, and it's got 6 first places. So it's just been strong. I don't think that's anyone's doubt. Is it too strong? That's up to you, but that's just quick data that I've gotten. And the 3 culprit cards in my mind for the deck are Cool Boy, Garurumon, and Where Garurumon, the promos. We already talked about Cool Boy, but Garurumon, this not having a once per turn kind of stinks. And I think they could just errata this to say once per turn to draw 1, and that'd be fine. The card cycle is obviously helps consistency with it, and I don't think it's the big issue. I do think this promo Where Guru is a bit of an issue, though, and I could see this being limited to 1. And part of the reason I could think this as well is that you could still do like the original archetype, because guess what? There's a bunch of blue Where Garurumons, right? But having to, not being able to get the extra advantage from it, or being able to just consistently say, you can still do your X plays and go into it, but without having to get an extra attack and then get like a dual, a security attack plus 1 on the next one. It's just, I think the pressure is just a little bit too much for where we're at right now. And I think, I don't know, I think in general people don't like Where Garurumon X. Or like MetalGaruru X in general, right? I don't know if that's consensus, if you guys don't think so or not. And I don't know if it's something that I want to actively say that I don't want around anymore, but I think it's definitely the best deck right now. At least, if not the most powerful deck, it is the most represented. If you want to get like an invite, if you want to do well at a tournament, best bet is just MetalGaruru X, just percentage wise. So I don't know. That's just my quick thoughts for it. I don't know if it's going to be fixed. And the conclusion of my video I was going to make is that there's 3 options. Either nothing happens to it, we'd make some bans, or BT11 is going to make some new decks that's going to make it impossible for it to win. And that could be a thing. I've seen like Black War Greymon X and Shoutmon be able to do that, but I haven't done a lot. I didn't do a lot of testing, honestly, to confirm that yet or not. But there we go. Grandis, I know some people are complaining about this deck, and it is very obnoxious for what it is. Like being able to just say that, you lose on like turn 2 or 3, depending on how much memory I pass my opponent, is really rough for a deck like this. In general, I don't really have an issue with it personally. I think the deck is fine for what it is. It is obnoxiously aggressive when it goes off, and there's not a lot of counterplay for it. And like we've always had issues with Grand Kuwagamon, right? And maybe not issues is the right word, but it's always been such a powerhouse of a card where you do this, you can do the Grand Kuwagamon, and we've had it before. Instead of going Grandis on top of it, we've had like Chaos going on to it, and it's just I don't know. I don't know if Grand Kuwagamon's the problem. I don't know if Digiburst 2 should be once per turn. If that would fix anything, I don't know. In general, like the deck is like it's like a bunch of cards having a lot of tiny advantage is pretty much how the deck works. And I don't know. I really don't have too big of an issue for it. But it's very, very strong. And I think these are the 3 cards that kind of make it very strong. Obviously, Grandis is going to make it strong, but there are other Grand Kuwagamons, though, if Grand Kuwagamon does go to 0 or 1. So the deck isn't functionally dead from that side, just less explosive of a deck. And then Akuwamon, same thing. There's more of those. This card is pretty good for what it is, to be honest. Being able to get extra memory and also add piercing to your Insectoid. So I think like he helps enable the plays, for cheaper memory when you need to. But I don't know. I'm not really actively saying anything needs to be hit by this, but I did want to talk about Grandis in general and get your guys' opinion on the deck in the comments as well. Again, it is very obnoxious to play against. I'm not going to say that. Like it sometimes feels unfair, right? Because you just lose because your security's bad sometime, and they sneak away with the win, right? But this is kind of also just how the game is based around a lot of the time too. And I don't know. I think this deck's strong. If they don't want this deck to still be strong, they could get rid of it if they wanted to. But right now, I'm not seeing it, even though it has been able to hang on for the last 4 or 5 months as probably one of the best decks in the game. So. And then we're talking about BWGX X and Crossheart real quick. Cool Boy. Again, Cool Boy is very good in BWGX X, especially since you now have like a lot of X antibodies for the Greymon lines. You pretty much have 2 level 3s, 2 level 4s, 2 level 5s, and like 2 level 6s essentially. So it's pretty Cool Boy finds so much in that deck with it, and also helps you go up your chains a little bit more. So that's kind of worrisome for me. Don't meme me. You guys can meme me if you want, but don't I'll be in on the meme. I put Metal Greymon on here because I wanted a 3rd card to balance it out, but it is probably the best. Like most of the time when we have issues with decks, it's like the level 4 or the level 5 that's actually the problem that gets hit or whatever. So I think Metal Greymon honestly is a really, really good card for what it is, and we can go into it for a cost of 2 now with the new line, and de-digivolving is great for if you do like the ramping war with your opponent of going up their lines, deleting something 3k DP or less, and then also the effect to being able to attack unsuspended stuff. It's a very this is a very good card. It's a very, very strong card and an archetype that boosts it even more. So if anything got hit specifically for BWGX X, I would not be surprised. This would be one of the contenders for it. I'm not arguing for that right now. That's not what I'm asking for. But I did just want to mention it because it is a very, very strong card and what I believe to be one of the best decks in the next format. And then Taiki, I know a lot of people are asking for this card, and this was kind of in BT10 EX3 land as well. And this was before Cross 4 got hit also. But he is strong. I don't know if Crosshair is going to be too good in this next format either. It did get a bunch of new tools, but if BWGX X is great, which has a lot of inherent Tamer Destruction, which the deck hates, we could see that this, you're in a bad spot for Crossheart again. So, but again, I'd say Taiki's probably like the most overtuned card for the deck. And again, if we do want to limit to 1, you can. I'm not asking for that either. None of these cards besides Cool Boy, you'll see in a second, I'm actually actively asking to get hit at all, but these are just 2 that I think are overtuned. If anything happens in the future, I would not be surprised on these 2. And I do also just want to talk about security control real quick. And the reason for, in my kind of personal experience with it, is that the worse the format is, the better security control is. It is just kind of this thing where if you are trying to play the format and all the decks that you want to play keep losing, Security Control probably has a pretty good form matchup because you are probably losing to like a very aggressive deck that like hits you a lot. And I don't know. That's just been my experience playing this game for 2 years. Is that if Security Control is a good in the format's probably a little stinky because of what like the being able to benefit as being Security Control, being able to be rewarded for the play style Security Control does means that you need to get a lot of free advantage from your security if you want a shot. So I don't really think anything besides maybe Death X is like on my watch list of these cards. Magna Angemon has just consistently been like a really good card for like since release, and it's just great and for a lot of things. Like it's an angel, an archangel. It's being able to recover, being able to be recurred, and all this other stuff. It's a very strong card. Chaos Degradation also, it's very costly, but man, it's the best removal in the game by far. There's only like black is like the only color that has like a way to prevent the removal for it, and I don't know, you just hit this insecurity and you feel like you win the game half the time. So that's just my experience with it. I don't think anything needs to happen with Security Control, but again, it's this thing, if the format's good, then Security Control is probably not going to be in the format because it doesn't interact with the decks that are hanging out right now. That's my experience. If that's wrong, let me know. But if I was to have to make so many hits or make any hard predictions, these are probably the first three that are on my eyes. We've talked about Cool Boy pretty much all videos, so that shouldn't be a surprise. Death X, I don't think should be a surprise either. And if I was to choose anything specifically for the MetalGaruru X archetype, it'd be probably the WereGarurumon promo going to 1. These are just my guesses. These are the not surprises. These aren't things that I would say I'm actively asking for, but these are ones that I think would adjust the game. Like setting all three of these cards to 1 would massively affect the how the meta looks like in the next couple of weeks. So that's just my thoughts. This is just again a thought video. Nothing I think needs to be fixed inherently, or at least aggressively needs to be fixed right now. But I did want to just kind of go over my thoughts, and I want you guys to have your own thoughts. And if you want to share them below, we can have a discussion. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it.